Hi, everybody. I want to thank you for listening to this recording whenever you have the opportunity to see it, whether it's now or later. I'm all bundled up. I I got COVID, tested positive for COVID last Monday, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit about my relationship with all that. But mostly, the reason we started CreateAWorld was to open up the hills and valleys of, of the movement of the human psyche and the human existence during this time, and not to have it about being promoting anything or forwarding anything other than just raw feed, just our stories, because the human story is what evolves into the human condition. It's what evolves into the human way of existing. It evolves into new worlds and new realities rising. So I loved Jim Williams, he works with me on the gathering we have once a month at the end of the month, and he calls himself a field reporter. So I could say that Devin and Liz and I are on today as field reporters in the field of Tantra Maat, and because when you're in the field, you are in the process of being part of what is creating reality, just by your nature of living on behalf of life and what has life exist as whole. So I'm going to start a bit this morning. All three of us don't really know what to say. It's not so much we don't know what we're experiencing, but our language base is collapsed into only this world, only this dimension, only this frequency base. And for the most part, this frequency base is about recovering from trauma. But in the work of Tantra Maat is working with the mind and working with the mind's perception. If you read the book, You as the Mind of Creation, is working with the perception of the mind so that it perceives right. It perceives like there's an enemy right now. It perceives like there's like the traditional mental structure, the frontal cortex of our brain is really geared to watch out to make sure everything's okay, make sure you're surviving, and it's always looking for being happy, but it's looking for being happy because then happy if you're happy you can survive anything. So it's a very complex, convoluted way that the neural cortex works, and in the seven levels of consciousness in the creation templates, they work us through the neural patterning of the brain. So by the time you get up to 6 and 7, your capacity to operate beyond the frontal lobe, you could say, increases dramatically. In other words, your capacity to be part of the mind of creation increases dramatically. And it's not a science. It's it's not a science that we can take apart and examine, like we can take apart and examine the science that Dr. Joe Dispenza is working on, which I'm so appreciative of, but it doesn't mean they don't correlate. And the fact they did correlate is what had myself and Liz and Deb and two other people go. So I woke up this morning, and because I have been with my friend COVID for 5 days, I thought I wasn't going to come on, and I thought I wasn't going to be visible if I did come on. But the truth is, something happened that I could perceive, and this is very important. Something happened that I could perceive, and I could cognitively articulate my perception. So in the field of Tantra Maat, we really do, I really do pay attention to our ability to struggle, because it is a struggle, to be able to language at the frequency level within which we're experiencing something. So today, uh, Liz and Deb and I will be doing what we do, but my intent today is to just not be concerned about the limitation of the perception that I'm speaking into at all, and just really articulate from the level of perception that I'm operating in. And it will either translate for those of you listening or it will not. But in your neural fiber, it will start stimulating, kind of like I'm looking at my cat bird by Esme, my dragon's head, and it's going like this. And it's sort of like your neural fiber will start going, what was that? What was that? What was that? What was that? And it'll start to lose its rigidity because it's having to take in the unknown. It's having to take in something not yet known cognitively, not yet known in a perceptive manner, because all the perceptive manner we have is to try to survive the world we were born into. And that's not what that is. There is an element of that happening right now, but the element that is happening right now that brings me joy is the element that's happening right now as we are now beginning to operate beyond that. So I tested on Monday, and I had COVID before quite badly in 2020, but a notion stayed in my brain all day Monday. And the notion was that I couldn't miss this event I had when I got COVID bad. I hurt because I was running a fever. My oximeter was down to 87. Dr. Chari was trying to get me to go to the hospital. I was refusing to leave my RV. We were going to wing it right there. I knew if they ever put me on a ventilator, I wouldn't make it. But this constant voice from the unknown kept saying to me, evolve or die. And I want to make a note of that we're part of a gigantic evolutionary moment right now in time. And and I took it on. I took on evolving. In Joe's work, in these pre-courses we did for the 7-day event, he talks about that moment in time when something terrible happened to you. And then you can say, if that didn't happen to me, I would never be who I am now. In low frequency, that sounds like if something bad happens to me, I can make lemons into lemonade. But in higher frequency, it means you're part of a greater system of reality within which everything is always moving to the next greater whole. Everything is always operating on behalf of life, and everything is always in harmony with one another. And that is almost completely imperceptible in the common reality that we presently exist in today. So that notion, that memory, all of a sudden I realized that how calm I was. And Joe talks about in space. Can you feel yourself in space? And I'm still there. And I could tell I was in space. I wasn't in the fabric of how disease or illness is held in the reality, which I call the time territory, 3D time territory, that I was born into. My body and I were busy about something, and I found I was actually excited. I was really excited because I knew that this thing that generated my ability to evolve past anything I could have ever imagined physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in 2020. And it was not a picnic. If people think life is a comfort zone, then you must not have much interest in growth or development or the excitement of becoming more. And so I settled in on Monday, and it was erotic. It was erotic just to realize that while not only was I moving with my body in this incredible level of intimacy, this shocking level of oneness, this overwhelming beauty of seeing where this would go and to see the great invitation before me. Not only was that going on, but there was also a realization that why I had gone to participate in the 7-day retreat with Dr. Dispenza is he was getting access to the gamma wave, the higher frequency wave, where there is no wrong. There is nothing off. There is no fix it. It is where everything is whole, complete, fulfilled, and satisfied. And that my body, these last 5 days, my body had returned to itself. It had returned to its self-awareness of being complete, whole, fulfilled, and satisfied. And I knew in hindsight that just like I did in hindsight from 2020, I knew in hindsight I would begin to realize, have perception, be cognitively aware. I would have perception as time went on of the value of this existence that I was in at this moment in time. And then the other thing that happened and is still happening was that I was in touch with, what the hell would you call it? I'm going to call it a debris personality. I think that's the easiest way to talk about it. And it was so beautiful because I was in space and these debris personalities, chatty Cathys, would show up and I'd go, like a gentle mother, I would say to them, no, we're not that. No, we're not that. And the other part of me still is I have plenty of space. I have plenty of space to see what we are, to see what I am now, see where I'm going now. And so all this entrapment of these lists of things we have to qualify for to qualify for being of value are gone. It's so incredibly odd. And the distinction I want to make is I actually have I have a rigor about I like when we teach the creation templates, the rigor is to only listen to thoughts that are life enhancing because that takes you into a higher frequency. But I realized that my body was dismissing the thoughts. My body was no longer organizing itself according to the thoughts. So ever since then, except the fact I've been sleeping about 15 hours a day, um, ever since then, I've just been in the wonder of of the body trashing, letting the trash, letting the trash release from its, like where it drank the Kool-Aid. That's what I want to say. That I've just been in an amazing observation and very present to and opened up into where my body no longer drinks the Kool-Aid. And it's amazing to me. And I wanted to come on and get that said this morning because one of our tendencies, and it's nobody's fault, I can't compare where I am to where I was because they're not the same place. They don't operate in the same fashion. I can't use the fact that I can tell that I've left Kansas, so to speak. No offense to Kansas. I've left Kansas and I don't know where I am, but I know that certain things I can see have ruled my psyche and in that ruled my body, even though they're still standing there like hauntings. They now are just old friends that need to take their journey elsewhere. So this whole ability to recognize the unknown and not to get all caught up with it. You can't articulate the unknown. That's black and white. You can't articulate the unknown. It's impossible. If you could articulate it, it would be known. What you can do is struggle around with language and work with language so that you begin to know that you're getting a way to track your experience. And in tracking your experience, this is what's crazy. You can't track your experience unless you're there. In the unknown, when you start trying, if you're in a forest and you've never seen a forest, till you start to say, I don't know, you start to try to talk about the ground or the trees or the sky. Until you start doing that, your own perception can't find a location there. In other words, our language and our struggle for language is the way that we reinstate ourselves in new territories that are rising. Over to one of you. Liz, you want to go?
Go ahead, Deb.
Okay. I love what you're saying. I and I'm just going to use my words for, well, I guess there's no choice but to use my own words for what I'm present to. I started getting sick after the first coherence healing, which was Thursday. And I remember thinking, huh, that's interesting. I knew there was something about that. And at the time, the highest my brain went was clearing. When you get a healing, then there may be clearing. But after coming home, and it, has continued. I didn't have COVID, but had a bad cough and all that. And I've just been sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. And I, at some point, thought, this is like a newborn. I'm sleeping like a newborn. And then I started thinking that, uh, it's a different operating state, coherence from the survival based system, different structures. And structures doesn't mean what it might ordinarily like. Um, mm, I can't think of an example, but it's different formulations, different. The words are really not there, but it's not the same. And it has felt to me like the structures of the survival based shaping that my body, mind, spirit has been under for thousands of years. Any one of us is leaving. And the coherence based shaping or holding or matrix is rising. That feels so clumsy, but that's the best I can do. And if that were the case, then I would expect to feel weak or have clearing or fallout from that, sleep like a newborn. And it's not that I haven't been the least bit upset. I haven't been, um, hadn't bothered me. Just steward the body. So I've used the homeopathic remedy Diane showed me and whatever else I've done to support my system. And the different phenomenon that I would call illness is beginning to go out
but I'm not like forcing it out or being so-called well is better than so-called sick. Although I do have a preference, but well, the words are just really hard to come by. But I've just been looking at a lot of things, and certain ways of being have just slid off. And I've said a couple of really outrageous things in my household since coming back, but without reactivity, without make wrong, just sort of, this is kind of the way it is for me. And it's a whole other ground. I like what you said of evolve or die Tantra. And I have kind of felt that way. I didn't have those words available to me at all, but if this was it, okay, is kind of how I'd thought about it. So I I'm really paying attention to how and how living from coherence or having coherence live me is distinguishable, and yet I can't pretend I know anything about it, really. Not really. This has been eons and eons and eons that humanity has lived under a certain uh, system. So I think I'll stop there and turn it over to you, Liz, for now. There'll be more.
Well, like Tantra and Deb, been going through similar ways of being this week. Came home and felt the body, mind, spirit just completely shifting and morphing, so to speak, through um, what could be perceived as illness and you know we've all been learning these lessons of the fact that being in chaos, which is I liken to we're all in the cocoon right now, right? It's kind of chaotic in there, I can imagine. Boy, would I love to go in and with my camera and see what happens. And so it's a shifting, our entire body is shifting. And so in order to do that, imbalance occurs. And it's all good. It's all really good. Um, I do feel like I've been floating in this bubble all week of space, um, and coming out to interact with my partner every now and then, um, and observing the environment here at home shifting with some kinks along the way. And it's the same in the system, it's
Yeah.
really been a chiropractic adjustment, um, which I did have one this week. So, and there was good evidence that the body is really shifting. Uh, and so, looking at dis-ease as a friend and just really thanking the body for working with the mind and spirit together to shift into a new configuration has been just a blessing. And having the time, just it's like there's no time, there's just having been with the work this past week, there's just no time. It's knowing that this is, like being in a cocoon. I'm not giving a timeline to it. It's going to take whatever time it takes. Um, I think the biggest blessing for me in the past couple of weeks is really learning to honor the physical body. This is, for myself, through Dr. Joe's work, I can really, really honor the physicality and work with the physicality now and really feel into what the creation exercises have brought me and really feel them viscerally now. Um, and so there's a merging of the two bodies of work for me, especially. And that was the main reason why I went to Dr. Joe's because I could see such a parallel between the field of Tantra Maat creation templates work and um, the field of meditation and working with the body and really getting to know how the body, mind, and spirit can work together. I've been after it all year, and I finally feel just a merging of the two, and it really packs quite a punch. Um, and what's coming up is being in the unknown is so much fun. It is so much fun. There is no fear there. It's I mean, I've always been the kid that, oh, what's around the next corner, right? Well, that's like tenfold now.
Yeah.
Um, and and so uh being in an evolving, really big, expanded, evolving space is really fun. It's really fun. And so from that vantage point, there really is only life enhancement. And I just haven't seen this imbalance as I don't even want to use the word want to put the prefix on there because it's a it's a balancing. I don't even want to say rebalancing because it's brand new. Like you said, Deb, it's we're sleeping like a newborn, although the last 2 nights I out. Just completely out, which is lovely. Um,
Think it's like a
Newborns
new
don't do that.
harmonic. I think it's a new harmonic,
Yeah.
a new frequency harmonic. So there's
Yes.
nothing because I mean, two things I got out of what you said. One is I'm in a new harmonic, and in that harmonic, I can tell everything out of balance is trying to harmonize with the new harmonic. It's just
Mhm.
really clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not like I made this up in my head. It's so directly experiential. I can't avoid knowing it. I can't avoid it.
Mhm.
Right.
And like it was so interesting last night. In the middle of the night, I had a dream. Now this may not sound like nothing, but I have uh, re it's a machine that you can put over your face and you breathe in respiratory relief. And all of a sudden, the dream is telling me in the morning to go get the respirator, and that I'm at a stage in my healing where that respirator would really be helpful. I mean, it's like I'm having pragmatic, my dream self is having a pragmatic conversation with me about what for me to do in the morning when I wake up. I don't think in all my history of dreaming, it was like the self-monitoring, this this local, me, and letting me know. And of course, I'd forgotten all about it. I haven't used it since I had COVID in 2020, and because I could use it this morning, I could clear my airways enough that I could actually be on this call. So it's not just woo woo. I mean,
Right.
I think that's the part that is so, because the reason I wanted to go, and I was thrilled to have everybody go with me, is because also in the field of Tantra, Maat, we work on coherence. Everything each of us does feeds the field because we operate in a coherent field.
Right.
And so being on this call with the two of you today is really important to me because the more we can get present to what there is to be present to, open up into what there's to open up into, and really have articulation for what there is to have articulation for, it 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 lets people have, those things that you you pound into the side of a cliff so you have hand
Yeah.
grabs. It's like making hand grabs to get to somewhere we've never been before. And of course, Janie, you know, uh, you always follow the path. The key is though is to put the brick down in front of you so you have a path to follow. So we're sort of putting the bricks down in front of us so all of us can have a path to follow. But and no offense to Kansas again, but there's the thing I got out of being there is I've waited for this moment for thousands of years. I was predicting this moment, uh, well, last 50 years, but it was so eerie to see science had grasped access to technically being able to restore the body to its high frequency nature, and that human beings could self-generate it themselves, not have to be under the guise of anything else. They could self-source, which is the work we do, and but this whole sense of beingness, being in space, observing, like multidimensionally, like there's a certain multidimensional to this. And one of the things the person shared was that her local eye couldn't really hold this bigger sense of I she came present to. But that's the whole point. We can't hold the greater self of which we are in the reality we were born
Right.
into. But now that reality is cracking up, and these they aren't really unknown. They're just unknown here. They're just unknown here. Otherwise, none of us on this call could even struggle to try to talk about what we're talking about
Right.
because we're clearly present to something, even if we can't articulate it effectively in this here.
Yeah.
But Joe, and I think that's the other thing that, he, there's some things I operate a little differently in like he talks about, um, a new personality. Well, I could say a new time territory within which a different kind of personality exists because nothing ever goes out of existence. Nothing. It's always in existence. You just have to get access to it. But it still lets people know that the personality of this framework of reality we're in is insufficient to the self of which our body wants to be a part. And I think we've been experiencing the body in touch with its self in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing with that language, even when you said that language the way you said it, my whole body just lit up. Um, because it really came home to me how uh resonant frequencies really can work with the body. And that's, I really got the whole self, the fact that we're our own pharmacy. That was one of my big joys to find out. Um, was that we can create our own pharmacy with these higher frequency substances that really can serve the body. Um, that blew my socks off. It really did. And and seeing the possibility, seeing the possibilities of self-healing is uh, incredible.
I've been really struck
Really
by
good.
how um, there really is no separation or distinction. There are distinctions, sorry. There's no separation between body and mind. Not really. And when I first learned about uh, that some people had been, this was years and years and years ago, that people were really studying the body mind connection all the way up to now. I didn't realize we still speak about the body and the mind as if they're separate. And that's as far as I can go with that because it just is for now. But it's fascinating to me that resonance is a cognitive phenomenon and a body phenomenon, and that mm, I'm not sure where I'm going with that one, or if I'm just saying things I'm present to, really, I guess, because it's just it really does it this really is occurring as new territory, and I am very interested in tracking that, tracking the flow of coherence, for lack of a, it's so weird to try to find words for this, the flow of coherence into the survival based system. It's and how it's shifting who we are. I would love it. I'm not very good at devising science experiments, and I would love for there to be science experiments for the aftermath, for after the fact. I really would love it. Because, like, I don't think I could, uh, even if I wanted to, I don't think I could um, relate to, let's just say, being sick the way I used to at all. It would actually kind of hurt to try to go back there. And yet I don't really have words for how I'm relating to it now. It really is occurring for me like quite a big mystery, quite a big mystery.
which is basically the point.
So,
I do want to bring one thing up because I was thinking about it today. It's why I don't do large groups. Uh, is because I prefer people self-generating, fascinated by their own ability to generate their own awakening. I I didn't, and it was interesting to me when he talked about. Sorry, I'm gonna go. It was interesting to me when he said the last two 7-day retreats, the coherence actually dropped at the end because people were ready to go home and they were no longer self-generating. And it just really pointed to that there's nothing any of us can learn that will provide us what we need unless we're generating a relationship to it, unless we're generating the outcome. Not but by generating, I mean that we're on for it. I would say, and you all respond to me, that I I've had a shocking revelation in regard to my own body before I went to the retreat. And it's along the line of what was shared about, well, am I that? Am I that? I don't know how to hold I am that. But I started being able to see the amazing amount of times my body's been at death's door and not just got well, regenerated.
Yes.
And 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 I would say that the fundamental operating principle using these two examples is that I always knew I was in relationship with creation and that creation was in relationship with me. And that's coherence.
Yes.
Coherence is the parts and the whole operating as a harmonic system, as a whole system response. So it was really interesting to me, and I'm a little flummoxed now. I'm back because I don't know if I have an intolerance point now. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what's going on, just like all of us. But I got the burden of responsibility off my back that I didn't even know I had, because truthfully, there's no teacher, and Joe is brilliant at this. I mean, technically, from a person who facilitates retreats, he makes us pay. He asks us to pay $2,500 so he can pound into us that we have to source our own awakening. And he takes all the time in the world to do that over and over and over and over again. And I don't do that. I don't do that. He's brilliant. It's where I think he's incredibly brilliant. Because if I was going to take time to do that, I also would be charging $2,400, if I was going to in fact, it reminds me of a client that gave me a lot of trouble in my 30s. And I said, I'm firing you. And he said, why? And I said, because you do nothing but argue with me. You don't even try in anything I say. And and he said, and then he tried to schedule again. And I said, I'm charging you double because you're just too much trouble. And he paid, actually, and listened. So my I noticed one thing I got left with that I wasn't expecting. I can't believe I'm even saying it into the TV, into the recording right now, is stop. Everybody stop giving evolution trouble. Stop doubting. Get on board. You know, don't be your own generative principle, including embracing, what's it called? Suck it up. Suck it up. And suck it up. We're in the midst of something that if I don't think people realize, I know you do, Deb, that I had this vision how long ago? 50 years ago. I was talking about these times. 50 years ago. And there were plenty of times I could say, no, there's no evidence for it. No, 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 no. And yet the vision was so strong that and it was wearing, it was weary making, but there was no not being real. And I think if there's any gift humanity can give itself right now, is don't be the past just because the past is all survival based. But don't be the past because we're not in the past anymore. We're in a future that every one of us shed blood for. Every one of us held on for. And it's just really important that we find that part of ourselves that doesn't collapse, that doesn't quail, that doesn't look for an outside source to have life be all right, that we really line up with our sovereign natures. And that just really stuck with me, that And he does a great job in 7 days. But truthfully, if you listen to everything he does, he says the same thing over and over again,
Yep.
just till it gets through, just till it gets to you, you know? And I know in the field of Tantra Maat, we're doing, in the Magician of Self, we're doing some really outside the box work right now. And I don't want to take the time to enroll people in its value. I don't.
Right.
And because if humanity can't enroll itself in its own value of the things it chooses to do, we have a big problem. Because why did you choose to do it? And expecting an outside source to give us ourselves is not where the mustard lies on the bread. I just wanted to get that in. Felt good.
Yeah. And I'll piggyback on that. Piggyback. Jumping right on your back on that because, you know, Dr. Joe said over and over and over, you got to do the work. And as you were speaking, I was thinking back to 2012 when I sat my butt down every morning at 5 a.m. I was working full time, raising two kids on my own. And there I was at 5 a.m., pounding myself with the creation exercises in the same way that we got pounded for the last 7 days. And it's parallel, it's the same. You got to do the work. You know, if you want to come to deepen your relationship with yourself, and here's the truth. If we don't do the work, it's going to be done. We're going to get upgraded, but it's going to be a rougher road. We're all moving into evolution, you know, some of us kicking and screaming and holding on. And so, you know, it evolving isn't easy. It just isn't. It takes work. So we have a choice.
I think the thing I just want to add to that is I wouldn't be bringing this up except there comes a time, I've seen it before in other lifetimes. There comes a time where there's no proof in the outside world that you're going to be where you're going to go, except you knowing that's where you want to go. That's what moving into the unknown is. So the question is, where do you want to go? And who cares if fear has got you by the throat? You know, who cares that I've been sleeping 15 hours a day? And I mean, it's all on behalf of getting out of this entrapment we found ourselves in and getting back to what I call paradise or home or what gives us a sense of what a human being is actually designed to be. So it's the timing that has me like attentive because we live every day like it's going to be like yesterday, and that's not true. That's not true. We're in a convergence. Everything's converging right now. There was no accident. We went to Dr. Joe's retreat in those 7 days. There's no accident. There's no accident we're doing the body of work we're doing in the Magician of Self at this moment of time
Yep.
and went to that retreat. Everything is converging.
Yep.
Everything is. It just is.
I really enjoyed how he had lots of ways he would check in. Did you all get that? Or however he would say it. And then he periodically would say, you didn't get that. Or he would say, come on. But it was, I hadn't noticed until I'm listening to what you're saying, Tantra, that even when he's saying, you didn't get that, or come on, he's saying it from located in the participant. Like, you come on. He's very, very, I really appreciated how much he awakened everything he awakened, presented everything he presented, gave access to everything. But it's our job, it's our place to grab hold. And yeah, there is a point. If I had just walked in off the street, maybe never done any kind of work whatsoever, to have a little bit of hand holding or even a lot of hand holding. But there comes a point when we've done so much work that it's those vestiges of, yeah, but, and what if, and uh, are you sure? It's time to just go forward.
Yeah, I love the repetition. Putting my teacher hat on, he is the best teacher I've ever had in that respect, because his teaching his whole system. And so, as he was saying, "Oh, come on, you didn't get it." I felt supported in that when
Yes,
he said that, like you were saying, because it's coming from a place of just the frequency of unconditional love. You know, I can say, "Oh, he showed unconditional love." No, that's bull hucky. It was the frequency that he exuded that just made you want to go for it.
right,
Because one of my fears was I saw the style was, information would come in, he'd deliver information, and then you had to turn to the person next to you and share that information. I was like, but what if I don't know it? And and then as time went on, it was so easy to say, well, I'm not sure I can articulate this. Let me give it a try. And there was always a download there. And um, that was huge. So that's very interactive. Someone gives you information in a bite that you can chew on, and then you turn and you have a conversation with the person next to you. I mean, brilliant teaching. And then just the whole physical act, the timing. I mean, everything. It was very, very well timed. The pacing was it was perfect, and very interactive. And the body, the whole system just was craving by the end. My whole system was just craving uh, everything, everything he had to offer. So, um, why would I mean that I keep it? It's going to be a tagline. Why would you not want to do this work? Why would you not want
hmm
to evolve yourself?
but I feel the same way about the field of Tantra Maat, both of them.
Mhm.
Why would you not want to? Or, and actually, I'm fine if people have other systems that get them to the same place, same access. That isn't, that's not the issue.
Right.
It's the access point. Why wouldn't you want to access? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't
and the
you want to
whole
access?
yeah, and that was interesting too, because there are places that the work of Tantra Mud and Joe and Dr. Joe overlap, like personality, for instance, regenerating the personality on behalf of all life. But it's crystal clear to me. This is the other notion I had. I was thinking part of the draw is the physical body is just in terrible shape right now. The human physical body is just in crisis right now across the board. Even if you're well, you live in trauma-centric realities at every level, do you know?
Right.
And I know I could not have the same draw if I said, what about restoring your mind? Just so you can be in touch with yourself as an aspect of creation.
Mhm.
Because there's no survival in that. There's no survival. It really is being one with creation, the draw, the lure of being one with creation. And that attractor is not there. That attractor for humanity is we don't realize that the very mind we're operating in, the mental perception, I would say the
Right.
sentient or the mental perception blocks us from being able to be in touch with our direct relationship with source, our direct relationship with ourselves. So I think it's brilliant to go through the body because the body's what's up. And then I've stayed on the thread. I've stayed sharing on the thread because you can see the missing gap. You can see the missing gap of um, who am I in the matter? You know, who
Yeah.
am I in the matter is missing. But all of us that do have access to these different things, and now I'm speaking like for myself and each of you, our job is to give people access to that. That's our job. And in whatever manner we can find to give access to that, whether it's a few people or whether it's even if you're a housewife, because it's now we're in a not only a whole system collapse, we're in the epicenter of a whole system response. So it's not one thing holds the key to the kingdom, is that it's a different paradigm of access, not a paradigm of solving problems.
Yes.
It's literally being able to access the greater whole of which we're a part. And I just think it's incredible. I'm thrilled. And I was with a very skilled presenter. He did his due diligence. He did his due diligence. And fortunately or unfortunately for the people that I'm working with, they're probably going to get some of that. Some of that makes it easier on me. And yeah, because I also noticed that in my work, I only do what's rising. That's why I do activations. I only pay attention to what's rising and get on the side of that. And so that makes me non-developmental in the sense that I don't have a lot of time. It's in time that something has to get access to. And oh, I wish I could show you the pigeon on top of Esme's. Um, oh, it's just too funny. Can you see it? Do you see
It's
the
a little
pigeon?
blurry. It's a little
Oh, you can't see
blurry.
it. Can't see it that far.
See something there.
Yeah, he's perched on top of her horn. I just had to add the pigeons today. Yeah, so there's multi levels to all this, that even how we learn, even how we pay attention, even how we process information. I mean, it's really, I mean, if we think our brain's in a funk, we should be celebrating because our brain's in a funk. It just is.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 2 minutes. Let me turn it over to you all for completion, okay?
Well, I, for me, my heart broke open and I can feel it now. And that's just what I'm offering, you know, just this pure heart that I want to be that purity that'll speak to someone to give them the wish to awaken themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a very strong appreciation for how he pretty much says the same thing over and over, mix it up a little bit, because I've listened to quite a few of YouTube videos before we went to the retreat and all that. And he does say pretty much the same thing. But it doesn't occur for me as boring or, yeah, yeah, yeah. It occurs to me as this is what it takes to dissolve the system we were born into and make room for something else, till the soil, as it were, for something else to grow. And it's really been an amazing process to be part of this.
Thank you for jamming with us today. those of you online, and
Yep.
the three of us. And